This week in Jamaica Now, opposition votes against extending the states of public emergency. The government says it's a bad decision.
This concern as a reason, as a basis for not continuing the public state of emergency is hypocritical.
Shock. A 34-year-old attorney is stabbed to death allegedly by her husband, said to be suffering from a mental illness. Revenge. A St. Mary cop kills a 62-year-old woman, then himself, at a police station. Not just yet, but resigned Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley could return to the cabinet. And fiasco in Parliament over PAC meeting to probe Petrojam report. I'm Damian Mitchell and this is Jamaica Now. It's been dominating the news all week, the decision of the parliamentary opposition to vote against extending the states of public emergency in Kingston, St. James and St. Catherine. The measures will end next month. The government needed 42 votes for the measure to be extended. All 33 government MPs said yes, but the 21 opposition members present said no. 10 were absent. Prime Minister Andrew Holness had pleaded with the opposition to agree to extend the measure, saying the heads of the security forces had requested a 90-day extension.
When you see the conditions in other countries where they spend money on their penal system and their correctional system, ours is still very much way behind. That is not the point that I am debating, which is why I find it curious to that the leader of the opposition and other members of that side would seek to only raise a point about those who are locked up in states of emergency. The conditions that the detainees are held in the state of emergency are, by and large, better than the general conditions of persons detained and arrested in all of the countries. This concern as a reason, as a basis for not continuing the public state of emergency is hypocritical.
But the opposition maintained that after a year, the state of emergency should be lifted. It also argued that the current saturation of communities by the police can be done under existing law. And amid criticisms, the opposition says it is aware of the political risks. Montego Bay's Mayor Homer Davis called the opposition spineless and disgraceful. But the opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, says his side had to vote against extending the measure in order to obey the law. According to Phillips, the conditions that demand a state of emergency no longer exist. He also said the only thing that the state of emergency provides for that other laws cannot is the detention of people without recourse to the courts. Meanwhile, several residents of communities that were under a state of public emergency say they are fearful about a return of violence if the security measure is ended. Phillips has met with the private sector organization of Jamaica to explain his position. Several members of the legal fraternity were left shocked on Thursday following the stabbing death of attorney Nordraka Williams-Burnett. Her husband, a lieutenant in the Jamaica Defense Force, has been arrested in connection with the murder. He is said to have been having mental issues. Hours after the murder, the man was taken away from the scene by police in the Ministry of Health van. A neighbor reported hearing screams around 5 o'clock yesterday morning and raised an alarm. The police say the couple's 2 children were in the house at the time of the murder. They have since been taken by relatives. Williams-Burnett headed the conveyance department at the law firm Townsend, White and Porter. It is emerging that 25-year-old District Constable Toyin Armsby reportedly shot 62-year-old Donnet Maxwell in an act of revenge, then committed suicide at the Islington police station. Relatives believe Armsby was upset that one of Maxwell's grandsons had refused his homosexual advances. The police reported that Armsby shot and killed Maxwell of Galena in St. Mary and then turned the gun on himself on Sunday. Maxwell's daughter, Cicely Badbury, says contrary to reports on social media, her mother and Armsby were not involved in a relationship, and in fact, her mother didn't even know him. She said her son got gifts from the cop, but that he had repeatedly turned down the policeman's advances. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has indicated that resigned Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley could return to the cabinet. However, he said there are other things to consider before any decision to reappoint him. It was one of the issues addressed by Holness on Monday to respond to the Auditor General's damning findings following a probe at the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam. The Auditor General's report revealed weak oversight of Petrojam, which was under Wheatley's portfolio. It also detailed 2 surprise parties for the minister that cost taxpayers $2.6 million. For one of the parties held in Montego Bay, St. James, a cake costing $1,000 was bought with Petrojam funds. And a day later, there was a fiasco in Parliament after the Public Accounts Committee meeting ended prematurely. A senior government official said Chairman Mark Golding acted illegally when he convened the meeting to examine the Auditor General's Petrojam report. However, Golding has rejected any blame for the fiasco, accusing the Andrew Holness administration of carrying out an orchestrated plan to subvert the committee's review of the Petrojam report. The PAC, with only the opposition members in attendance, was about 90 minutes into its deliberations when the clerk to the Houses of Parliament, Heather Cook, delivered a note to Golding saying she was instructed by House Leader Carl Samuda to pull her staff because the meeting was not properly convened. Samuda said he gave no such instruction, but simply reminded Cook of the standing orders. Michael Cohen, the former attorney for U.S. President Donald Trump, has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for lying about his boss's business dealings in Russia and funneling hush money to 2 women who said they had sex with Trump. Cohen, Trump's once devoted lawyer and all-round fixer, told a federal judge that his blind loyalty to his boss led him to cover up Trump's dirty deeds. The 52-year-old attorney shook his head slightly and closed his eyes as the judge pronounced the sentence for his crimes. Cohen is the first and so far the only member of Trump's circle during 2 years of investigations to go in open court and implicate the president in a crime. Prosecutors announced Wednesday that they filled in another piece of the puzzle in the hush money case. The parent company of the National Enquirer acknowledged making one of those payments in concert with the Trump campaign to protect him from a story that could have hurt his candidacy. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune in to Power 106 FM for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Damian Mitchell, and before we go, more reaction to the opposition's decision to vote against extending the states of public emergency.